like emojis floating to the top of your screen. These are the best of my lives on Facebook. My lives on Facebook.
Big exciting news in Beyond Obedience front. I have internet. What? Yes. Hey everybody. It is Tracy here from Beyond Obedience, live from my house. I wanted to continue our discussion from yesterday where we were talking about the leadership scorecard, right? If you're new to the idea of the leadership scorecard, this is one of the most valuable relationship tools you can ever have in your toolbox. This understanding of how dogs relate to one another, to you, to your kids, all of this stuff. And it all has to do with this idea around the leadership scorecard. So to recap, leadership scorecard, very simply, every single time you do something for your dog, I want you to ask yourself, was that my idea and the dog followed through? Or was it the dog's idea and I followed through? So if it was the dog's idea and you did it, then the dog scores a point, right? But if it was your idea and the dog did it, then you score a point. That's the basics of the scorecard. Now, obviously, there's some nuances to it. The reason why I wanted to do this in my house today was to talk about this concept of the leadership scorecard if you have a multi-dog household like I do. But I have a multi-dog household. As I mentioned yesterday, the scorecard is not transferable to other people. So if you're doing the work and your significant other or your kids aren't doing the work, then the scorecard is vastly different, right? How the dogs respond to my presence in the room is very different from how they respond to when my kids are in the room or if my husband's in the room with the dogs. So I'm going to turn my camera around here. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Oop, there we go. Oh. I'll introduce you to some of my characters here because the idea here is that the leadership scorecard is also different for each and every dog. Each of your dogs, if you have a multi-dog household, will have their own dogonality, as I like to say, their own personality, their own thing. And we have to have different scorecards based on the dogs that we're working with. So as you can see over there, we'll start with that guy since he's there just looking really intense outside. That is Irie. I don't know if I can zoom. I can't zoom. That's Irie. He knows his name. Irie. Right? Irie is an Australian Shepherd, and as such, he's a working dog. So he likes, obedience and stuff like that. He likes to please. He likes to do, oh, here he is. He likes to do jobs. And my leadership scorecard with him has to be different than, say, these guys down here. So very, very different dogs. This is Echo. She's a Newf. This is Nigel. He's also a Newf. We have another Australian Shepherd over there. That's Rue. I'm going to stand up. Oh, outside, lying in the snow. Caesar. He's eating snow as well. He's doing his snow things. So every single dog in my pack, I have a different scorecard for. And that's what makes the scorecard kind of, as I say, there's a nuance to it. So I treat Irie differently than I treat Nigel. And I treat Irie differently than I treat Echo or Rue because of their own personalities. Now, lots of people will say, well, that doesn't seem fair, right? I get that a lot. Well, that's not fair. There's no fair in the dog world. I'm going to put that out there. There's no fair in the dog world. You have to treat each individual as an individual. So, for example, Irie is a little bit more, I love when he turns Irie. Oh, he's so cute. Look at him. Irie. Irie is a little bit more high strung. He's high energy, right? He needs to follow through on commands a little bit more than these guys do. And that's not because it's not fair. It's because these guys aren't going to challenge me in the same ways that Irie does, right? So that's the Aussies, but I want to talk a little bit, and this was my confession time. This is my absolute confession time. When it comes to leadership scorecard and this idea of awareness, because there is a dog in my pack that gets away with, I don't know, everything. And it's this dog.
Mostly because of his eyebrows. Look at his eyebrows.
This is Nigel. And if anybody knows me and has had the opportunity to work with me or has come to my seminar, you know that Nigel is my favorite. We're not supposed to say that. But he is my favorite, and I don't know what it is. There's just something about Nigel. I get stupid, gooey smitten with him. I love him so much. I can't stand it. I squish his face all the time. He gets away with basically anything he wants, and because of that, Nigel has absolutely terrible recall. This is my confession, you guys. He has terrible recall. Like, he is the worst when it comes to coming when he's called. I mean, generally speaking, if I call Nigel, he will acknowledge my presence, but then be like, yeah, I heard you, but I'm going to do like these 7 things first. And then I'll come. He has terrible recall. So much so that all of my other dogs can go outside. We just let them out, and they have 44 acres. They just go out. Nigel, we have to walk. We have to go out with him. we have to watch him because he will wander off and then he doesn't come back, and he has terrible recall. And that is 100% my fault. Like 100% my fault. And it is literally because my leadership scorecard on a daily basis with this dog sucks. It's just terrible. And I know it. I absolutely know it. His nickname now, sadly, is Nigel, not you, Franken. Because when we go to let the other dogs out, if there's no one that wants to stand outside with him, he doesn't get to go out. So all the rest of the dogs get to go out. And we turn to him and we go, not you. So he literally is Nigel, not you, Franken. And he has terrible recall. Absolutely terrible recall. This is my confession, you guys. But the difference is, I know why he has terrible recall. He doesn't have terrible recall because he's a bad dog. He doesn't have terrible recall because he's lazy or he's being a jerk. He doesn't have terrible recall because of anything other than the fact that this dog is admittingly my favorite, and my leadership around him sucks. His sweet, wee face just melts my heart, and I can't help myself but to let him get away with whatever he needs to get away with because he's adorable. Now, I can fix that quite easily by starting to be better with my leadership, to not let him do the things that he does. I mean, honestly, it's an easy fix when you start to recognize how many points I lose on a daily basis with this dog. I lose points first thing in the morning. Before I even get out of bed, I lose points with this dog. So I know why his recall sucks, right? His recall sucks because my leadership sucks. Now, I'm going to introduce you to, there's this guy. This little man right here, this is my Jack Russell Terrier. This is Zack, Zack the Jack. Zack is 15 years old. So he's living the senior's life down here, sleeping on a chair with the fire. He's got the fire going and he's sleeping on a chair. The reason why I wanted to point out the difference between leadership scorecards is that my leadership scorecard with this little man has to be on point all the time. This dog here would run circles around me if I did not keep up with my leadership scorecard. He would be an absolute menace in my house. He would start fights with all of these dogs. He would be he wouldn't be able to be here. Let me just put it this way. He would not be able to be here where he is because he's a Jack Russell. He's a Jack Russell. So this dog here challenges me all the time. I have to make sure he doesn't level up, right? He doesn't take space, and he will do that. I have If I didn't keep up with my leadership, this dog would be attacking other dogs, starting fights all the time. He would be the phone call that I would get from somebody else saying this dog is an absolute nightmare. He would be. As you can see, he's pretty awesome. And he's awesome because I have to be very, very diligent on my scorecard. I have to understand his conversations. I have to be able to influence his behavior in a positive way. And I do that through leadership primarily, but also relevance and fulfillment. So, but today we're just talking about that scorecard. So with Zach, my scorecard is pretty high, and it has to be. And anytime he starts to do anything, if he starts to be really crappy with the other dogs or whatnot, I check my leadership scorecard, and I've always dropped the ball somewhere along the line. I'm not gonna lie, I start to drop the ball a little bit now because he's a senior, and so so we tend to be a little bit softer with him. But you can tell as soon as I become soft with him, that's when he will immediately be like, haha, you're soft, I'm out, you know, and then he just does his Jack Russell-y things. So there you go. I'll turn my camera back around here. Oops. There you go. That's life in a multi-dog household. So I have to be aware of every single thing that goes on here. I have to be aware of my leadership scorecard for every single dog. It will be different for every single dog. So I'm going to show you I'll show you this live thing here, just because these dogs all came down because I'm down here now. Isn't this fun? This is my life, you guys. If I were to sit upstairs, they'd all sit upstairs. If I come down here, they all come down here. They're right here. See, I'm watching him because he does not take to Nigel very well, right? And he won't, because he knows that Nigel is my suck. See how our emotional stuff and our favoritism, I know you're not allowed to say that you have favorites, but we all do, right? I'm just gonna be honest and say we all have favorites. So my favoritism, my favoring that dog there, does cause stress in my pack. I just have to be aware of it and keep it under control. That's the main thing. So very, very little cool setup there. There's Zach licking himself like he's a cat. Echo, Root positioned herself there. Irie's still standing, waiting. Where are the boys? I want to go outside. If you guys have any questions about the multi-dog household, I'll tell you right now, if there's one thing that I excel at, it's getting dogs together and understanding dogs and how they relate to one another. But if you want to get good at it, this is the place to start. Leadership scorecard. You have to start there. All right? Oh, how cute are you? Look at, he brought me that toy. He's like, will you do this for me?